puppies sometimes need a more nutritious diet, right? With older dogs, we tend to want them to be more nutrient rich. Diet to me is not only the food you're feeding, but the supplements and herbs that you're giving.
You're listening to the Digest This podcast, and I'm your host, Bethany Cameron. Is garlic actually okay for dogs? What is the best diet for a puppy, midlife, and elderly pet? And what about spaying and neutering? Is that really shortening their lifespan? Rita Hogan is here to answer all these burning questions and so much more in today's interview. Rita is a holistic pet herbalist and author of the book, The Herbal Dog, and she is breaking misconceptions of some of the most highly asked questions and controversial topics when it comes to your pet, such as vaccinations, deworming, and even certain pet toys that can and have killed dogs and continues to. You may even be giving this to your dog on a regular basis and just not know it. We talk about plants that could be harmful to dogs, that could even be in your own backyard, and she shares her take on how many times we should be feeding our furry friends, so stay tuned until the very end. A large 2022 meta-analysis found that people who consumed the highest amount of olive oil were 31% less likely to develop cancer. This may be due to the antioxidants in olive oil, which may help reduce oxidative damage caused by free radicals, which is a leading driver of cancer. A 2023 study found that olive oil was linked with lower inflammatory markers in people with rheumatoid arthritis, especially for more severe disease activity. Olive oil contains compounds that may inhibit and even kill harmful bacteria. One of these is H. pylori, which is a bacterium that lives in your stomach and may cause stomach ulcers and even stomach cancer. Studies have found that extra virgin olive oil may help fight against certain strains of this bacterium. Needless to say, start taking olive oil daily, but don't just pick any olive oil off the fluorescent lit store shelves, because all the beneficial compounds I just mentioned are most likely gone, rancid, and oxidized. Not to mention, some brands even cut their olive oil with other products such as seed oils to stretch a buck and make more profit. Have you even looked at the date the olive oil in your kitchen was produced? Most likely, it's over a year or two old. Casandrino's olive oil is different. They own their own farm in Greece, harvest their olives, press the olives, and bottle their extra virgin organic oil all in the same day. They ship it straight to America to arrive at your doorstep as little as 2 weeks from production, so you know you are getting the freshest, cleanest, and highest antioxidant olive oil available. This stuff is like medicine, and you can see and taste the difference in the color when you compare it to other olive oils. So stop buying rancid, oxidized, old olive oil from the store and get the freshest olive oil to benefit your health and make your meals taste 10 times better. Get 25% off if you go to casandrinos.com/digest and use code DIGEST at checkout. You can also click the link in today's show notes, which will automatically apply the 25% off discount. Again, you can go to casandrinos.com/digest and use the code DIGEST. I have a question for you all. What's antibacterial, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, contains antioxidants, improves oral health and digestive support, and contributes to wound healing? If you guessed Manuka honey, then you're absolutely right. Every time I talk about Manukora honey from New Zealand on my Instagram, I always get messages from my followers telling me how much they appreciate me introducing this ancient healing honey to them and their family. A little goes a long way, and this honey should be saved for medicinal purposes, not baking into cakes or cookies. It's something I always have in my pantry because it never spoils, ever. And a tiny teaspoon daily is all you need to get the endless benefits both internally and if you apply it externally on your face for breakouts or even burns, its potent healing powers work wonders. Manukora honey contains 3 times more antioxidants than your typical sweetener and the special antibacterial compound called MGO. The higher the MGO count, the more of these antibacterial compounds exist in the honey. It's hard to find Manuka honey with an MGO MGO above 500, but Manucora guarantees an MGO of at least 850. Now it's easier than ever to get Manucora honey. Just head on over to manucora.com/digest to save $70 on their starter kit, which comes with an 850 plus MGO Manucora honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook. That's manucora.com/digest to save $70 plus $25 worth of free gifts. That's manucora.com/digest. Okay, Rita. So before we even get into our interview, I like to start my podcast with rapid fire yes or no questions, and you can only answer yes or no. Are you ready?
Yeah, ready.
Okay, first question. Is garlic in small amounts good for dogs?
Yes.
Is spaying and neutering your pet shortening their lifespan?
Yes.
Should dogs eat pork products? Raw pork? The silence.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, they should. Okay, we can go into that later. Should we be giving senior dogs a different diet than when they were adults? Or like, not puppies, but like the older dogs, should we be giving them a different diet than when they were in their prime?
Yes.
We should. Okay. Last question. Number one misconception dog owners get from their vets. I guess this is a one answer question. What is the number one misconception that dog owners get from their vets?
Vaccination.
Interesting. Okay, Rita. So we were talking offline, and I was telling you that I have 2 dogs. They are both about 1 year old, actually. I have a toy Yorkie and a Belgian Malinois. They're both females. And we made the decision, we got them from puppies, and we did not spay or we didn't fix them, right? Because I've heard some conflicting stuff about that. And to me, it seems like they never did that in the past, right? You're taking stuff out of their body, basically, and kind of, I don't know, I've heard really interesting things about both sides, and I have been pushed by my own vet to get them fixed. So I want to know the reasoning. You are anti-spay and neuter.
Well, it depends on the situation. It also depends on what part of the country you're in. And, if you're able to be a responsible pet parent, right? And so that we don't have overpopulation of dogs. But that's the kind of the ethics of it. But then you get down to the, dogs are individuals. And so they were born with their reproductive organs. And the reproductive organs are so important. As a woman who's had a hysterectomy, I can tell you right now, I'm basically equivalent of a spayed female dog, and it isn't a walk in the park. It affects your body every single day. It affects how your metabolism is. It affects how your adrenal gland functions. It affects your liver. It affects so many things. And a lot of people don't realize that when you spay and neuter a dog, that the luteinizing hormone that comes from the HPS axis, which is the hypothalamus pituitary axis, it doesn't stop pumping out luteinizing hormone just because you spay and neuter your dogs. And that's one of the biggest problems because it puts so much stress on the rest of the body. This is in dogs. Cats, it's much less. But and that just puts so much pressure on the rest of the organs. And we really want our dogs to be able to have a healthy endocrine system because hormones affect and cause everything. So we're doing them a huge disservice. And there's so many studies out there. I was just speaking in Spain this year to a group of veterinarians about this subject, spay and neuter, and what happens, and giving them some herbal things that they can do. But spay and neuter just came across as this is what we're going to do. And then it became normalized, right? Kind of like how cancer is becoming normalized right now. And it's just because we have a conversation about it doesn't mean it make it true. And spaying and neutering your dog ups their chances of hemangiosarcoma and osteosarcoma exponentially, like over between 40 and 60%, depending on the study. That's insane. And also opens up the doors to chronic arthritis, osteoarthritis, thyroid problems. Hypothyroid is a huge issue for dogs. It's an epidemic, and it's caused by spay and neuter. So there's so many things that are affected, and also the personality and the level of anxiety that happens when you spay and neuter. And if you're going to spay and neuter, you want to wait. Like for females, you really want to wait until, I like to do 3 heat cycles, but at the minimal 1 heat cycle. And then for boys, you want to make sure, I like to wait 3 years, so that they really have, their bones are done growing, their growth plates have closed, their hormones and their organs and their system has had a chance to develop before taking those hormones away. And then another thing is, when we're at the vet, and this is no faults to vets, I don't think they get any training on this in vet school. But you really want to support your clients in, okay, we spayed and neutered. Now, here's what you need to do for the rest of your dog's life.
Interesting. Well, I've heard, I had a previous Yorkie, and this is, I'm going to keep it short, but before the current pups we have, I did have a Yorkie. She was not fixed, and I took her to the vet, and they're like, you need to fix her. You need to. And I was pressured into it. And she was healthy, blah, blah, blah. Once I did that, her health declined like dramatically. And then she like actually passed very like 6 months later. And I'll never live that down. And I mean, it could have been something else, of course, right? But it's always in the back of my mind, like all of a sudden that her health just declined. And then to your point of waiting for 3 heat cycles to fix a female dog, my vet told us to do it like immediately. No. And I'm thinking, that's weird. That's strange. It doesn't, there's so much conflicting information out there, but you are right where it does affect their hormones. And I've heard that dogs could be more aggressive once they get fixed. Obviously you just mentioned bone health, and like they're growing, they need their hormones.
Yes. So like if you take a Great Dane, right? They have these huge growth plates. And if you spay and neuter a Great Dane, let's just say people are spaying and neutering like below 6 months of age, but even like, I would say 1 year. Sometimes these growth plates, and especially when they're young, they haven't closed yet. And one of the things that helps them close are hormones. And when they get to a certain level, and there's a lot more to that, but just simplicity wise, and that just opens them up to osteosarcoma. And I think it's a travesty because veterinarians are not educated in spay neuter. And again, it's a conversation that has become normalized. Like when I'm going to be 55 this year, and my dog Susie, and I talk about this in my book, The Herbal Dog, my dog Susie lived until she was 24. You know, she was never spayed. I don't know if she was vaccinated. I can't tell you that. My dad's not here to tell me that anymore, but we didn't, I know the vet came to our house. We hardly did anything. You know, she drank raw milk. She ate raw meat. She ate cooked food. Raw food. She was able to sleep outside if she wanted to. We were on a farm, but a lot of times, you know, when I would get up for school, she'd be in the living room uh, sitting behind my dad's chair. You know, we left the little door open for her, and she'd come in and out of the garage, and there was a door open from the outside to the garage, and uh, she was always there with me with my horse. She would be feeding on berries. You know, I tell this a lot. She'd eat little creatures that made me cry. You know, she'd eat rabbits and mice and things like that. She'd catch things and eat them, and um, she ate plants, and she just kind of lived a dog's life, and she was always there with us. She was there when I was born. She was there when I went to college, you know. But she died when she was around 24. It could have been later, but the latest date that I can confirm with everyone in our family is 24. So there's a big difference on how we take care of our dogs, from when I was young to now. Like now, dogs are vaccinated yearly. You know, the rabies vaccine in the United States is required by law, but you can do it every 3 years, and you can also prepare the body for that vaccine. Um, but the rest are not required. You know, parvo and distemper when they're a puppy, sure, that's fine. You can also prepare a puppy for that and help them with those symptoms. But um, I mean, with dealing with that vaccine. But our dogs are vaccinated every single year of their life for things that they do not need and that they have immunity to. You know, an immunity is not like a gumball machine where, you know, I have more gumballs than you. You're either immune, you either have antibodies and you have immunity, or you don't. And and I have vaccinated dogs in my life. I vaccinated my beagle when she was under the rabies titer, um, because she ran, you know, 180 acres.
Well, I think it depends on the lifestyle of you and your dog. If you're always taking them out, hiking and fishing and they're with other dogs at the park, or are they, just in your home, you don't really socialize with other dogs, you just go on walks. And I think that in my mind kind of plays a part of if you are going to or not going to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, lifestyle does play a part. Um, but you know, like I know that I, your lifestyle is about health and gut health, and you know, building a resilient dog is the answer. Like we're never going to win the war on germs. We're never going to win the war on viruses. We're never going to win that war. It's not even a war to me, but like you're not going to win. Nature's much smarter than we ever will be. But you can build a resilient dog. You can focus on the same things we do as people who are in the health and wellness uh, like space, is that we focus on building a resilient terrain inside. And it's the same for dogs. Um, if
Well,
you have, oh, go ahead.
Well, let's just get into it. What I want to ask about diet in general, but you did mention regarding spay and neutering. If they are, right, let's just say you have a pet that is spayed or neutered, what should you do now to support that dietary wise?
Well, that would be a whole other podcast, but I can tell you a couple of things. One, uh, glandulars are good. So glandulars of what you've taken. So a prostate glandular, I think it's ancient nutrients or ancient nutrition. Yeah, they have a product called Fem, that is for girls, and they're based on 150 pounds human. So you would do the weight with your dog. Like your little Yorkie would literally, you'd open up a capsule and squeeze out just a smidge, right? I mean, just literally a pinch. Whereas your Malinois would probably need like maybe 1 to 2 capsules, um, but of the prostate, because is he your Malinois a boy or
They're
girl?
both females, yeah.
Oh, they're both female. So yeah, 1 to 2 capsules. I love that product. It's a good glandular. It's sourced well. And then they have a male one. I can't remember the name of it, but it's prostate, testes, different types of and adrenal and liver, which also need to be supported. Um, and then just at a base level, supporting the adrenals. There's lots of adrenal formulas out there, but supporting the adrenals is so important after you spay and neuter, because the adrenals become the main hub for utilizing, producing small amounts of hormones. Now, the needs for males and females are completely different, but it's still the amount of stress. And the advocates for spay and neuter are going to say, well, your dog can get mammary cancer or pyometra or prostate cancer. But if you work and support those organs and support your dog's resiliency and terrain, those dogs don't get those things. And I'm writing a book about cancer right now, and I'm gonna talk at length about spay and neuter and what to do and what are those implications of those things. But those are like the basics. You can use glandulars. There's lots of herbs out there, but again, it would be another whole conversation about those herbs.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, speaking of diet, I think that a lot of dog owners say that, first of all, I feel like you could totally give them whatever you're eating as long as I know there's like a list of things that dogs can't have, and I want to get into that as well. But in general, like, why can't they have organs that you're eating? Why can't they have ground meat that, you're eating as well, as long as there's, it's just plain and all that. But, I've heard some dog owners argue that their dog only prefers one brand or one flavor of food, and others argue that dogs need a variety in their diet, which makes sense to me. But what's your take on that?
So, I like to meet people where they're at. So if you are feeding kibble, I like to improve the kibble first. I believe in baby steps. I like to improve the kibble, educate someone on kibble and how it's made. There's a kibble hierarchy out there. There's really poor kibbles, and then there's higher end kibbles that have less, minimal ingredients are very important. And then, work them into a cooked diet or a raw diet. And yes, animals can eat almost everything that we do. The important thing is that it's not processed, right? That's the important thing. A processed diet for people is very inflammatory. A processed diet for dogs also is inflammatory. There are those people and dogs, that can smoke 2-3 packs a day, eat McDonald's every day, and live until they're 90, right? But that's not the norm. That is not the norm. And we were really seeing, skyrocketing illness and chronic illness right now, and a decrease in ages in dogs. That's another normalizing conversation. A dog is not old at 7 and 8. That is not true. It's false, and it's based on our system of I would say sick care right now, for sure, with our animals and our people. But dogs can have fresh cuts of meat. It can be lightly cooked or it can be raw. A dog's stomach's acid is it can dissolve bone. Okay. So it's extremely caustic, and that's where it's its first line of defense on pathogens. They can deal with a lot more pathogens than a lot of people realize. They can eat roadkill. They can eat dead frogs. You know what I'm saying? Like,
we give them raw eggs.
Yes, they can eat raw eggs. They can eat cooked eggs. So I think that it is a fallacy that dogs can't eat fresh food. And, there's like companies like the farmer's dog, right? It was a refreshing thing for me to see that commercial on the Super Bowl last year. Would I agree with the formulation of Farmer's Dog as an herbalist? Probably not. However, I love the fact that they are promoting a fresh food diet and saying, here, we're a big company. We're making fresh food for dogs. It's working. Is it going to work for every dog? No. Dogs are individuals and they need certain things. Just like, you're a proponent of health. People are individuals. I could eat kale and then someone else next to me could, not be able to digest kale. And so dogs are the same. And I think that people don't realize that our dogs are that individual.
I've eaten chocolate every day, twice a day for the past 3 years straight. And no, it's not a tiny square of chocolate twice a day. It's cumulatively almost a cup full of pure chocolate every single day. I know, that's a lot. And my husband thinks I'm a mad, crazy person for the amount of chocolate I eat. But let me tell you, I'd be even more mad crazy if I didn't eat it. You feel me? But this chocolate is not your typical Hershey's bar. It's not even your typical bougie foo-foo chocolate you would find at an Erewhon. This is pure 100% cacao, aka Criollo chocolate from Santa Barbara Chocolate. I discovered them back in 2017 and have been a customer ever since. Santa Barbara Chocolate used to only do wholesale, but now offers its no sugar, no stevia, pure chocolate to the public. And this is the chocolate I love to eat every day because unlike other 100% chocolate, Santa Barbara Chocolate delivers Criollo chocolate, which is a type of cacao derived from a rare and delicate cacao bean. It's nutrient dense, and it's very high in antioxidants, specifically flavonoids, and also very high in iron and magnesium. It provides significant cardiovascular benefits by improving circulation and lowering blood pressure, while also enhancing mood, cognitive function, and skin health. Its low fat content and high mineral profile makes it a superior choice for promoting energy, reducing fatigue, and combating inflammation. If you want to try this rare Criollo chocolate, I have to warn you, because once you do, you will be hooked. It's 100% sugar-free, stevia-free, monk fruit-free, and contains no sugar alcohols. Perfect for baking into your brownies, cookies, and also no-bake treats, adding to smoothies, yogurt bowls, or simply just snacking. If you go to santabarbarachocolate.com and use code LITTLESIPPER, you will receive a discount on not just their Criollo chocolate, but all their chocolate products they offer, like their red cacao powder, which is also a favorite of mine I bake with. Go to santabarbarachocolate.com and use the code LITTLESIPPER. That's code LILSIPPER. I know there's a lot of people that say you never, ever give a dog garlic, among other things. But I've heard that garlic can actually help deter fleas in a dog. So give us the tea.
So garlic is fine for dogs. We all need to put that one to bed, that it's not. It was based on one study. It was a junk study. And they were talking about amount of garlic that you would never feed your dog. I mean, it was astronomically large, and it will cause anemia, hemolytic anemia. Absolutely. But if I gave you an astronomical amount of other natural substances, you would also get ill. If I gave your dog 4 tablespoons of ginger, your dog would get very sick, right? That amount of heat in that ginger would make your dog sick. If I gave your dog a quarter teaspoon, the Malinois, a quarter teaspoon of ginger powder on their food, they'd be fine. Another thing, garlic is warming. So it's not gonna work for dogs that are super warm to hot already. Dogs are like warm and they're cool. That again, just like humans, I'm a warm person, you know. You're not going to catch me in a sweater very often. I've been that way since I was small. You know, where my partner, a cool person, loves turmeric, loves ginger, loves hot food, you know, hot, spicy, number 5. Dogs are individual like that as well. But across the board, they can have garlic. You want to make sure that the amount of garlic is correct. And like for a Yorkie, that amount of garlic is going to be cutting the tip off a clove, like the tip, right? And fresh organic garlic that's just been chopped is the best type of garlic, in my opinion. You can do like garlic granules. There are companies out there, huge companies, that have garlic in some of their formulations. That's fine. They're going to give you the right dosage. But if you're using fresh garlic, you know, it's like a quarter clove for every, I would say, 10 to 15 pounds.
Okay.
So a little tiny Yorkie is going to be a smidge.
Okay. What about if garlic is infused in a bone broth that you are going to give to your dog?
Um, it depends. It depends on if that's a human product.
Bone
Okay.
broth? Yeah.
No, yeah, like
Oh,
some people will buy bone broth in a carton and share it with your dogs. Don't do that. Onions are not good for your dogs. They onions are much stronger. You don't want to give onions, so you don't want to share human bone broth because most of it has garlic and onion, and you don't know how much is infused. So if you're doing it by yourself, if you're making that, or if it's a already commercial pet product, you're
mhm.
probably fine.
Okay. That's really good to know. So if we are going to make our own bone broth, skip the onion and only a tad of garlic.
Just a tad, yeah.
Okay. Now, can garlic be a natural flea deterrent?
Absolutely. Garlic can definitely be a natural flea deterrent. For sure. There are companies that have like little garlic pills that you give your dogs for flea and tick, usually mixed with like brewer's yeast or something like that, B vitamins that deter fleas as well. So absolutely, totally can.
Okay. What about what are other natural flea deterrents?
Um, there's a ton. There's essential oils out there. I like to make sure my dog's okay with a specific oil before I start spraying them with it. But lavender, geranium, cedar is good. I like neem, neem powder, rubbing it through their fur. I really like that one. Again, when you work on the inside, fleas aren't that interested on the outside. And also, you know, a lot of people don't realize this. It's natural for dogs to have one or two fleas on them. Dogs aren't meant to be flea free. I like when my dogs are flea free. I comb them out. We comb them, we groom them. I do it with my cats as well because they my cats spend some time outside every day, and I don't use any flea and tick remedies on my dogs. But when I do, I'm going to give them a bath with like a nice natural flea shampoo. Um, some people put diatomaceous earth through their dog's coat. It can be quite drying though, so it depends on how dry your dog is. But just keeping things up in the house and in the yard is just huge on bringing down fleas. So
Okay.
it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle.
Okay. And what about natural ways to deworm? Are there any?
There's a lot of ways to deworm, but you need caution with that. So that would be another podcast.
Another podcast for
But
another
yeah,
day.
there's definitely, but there are natural dewormers that are on the commercial market, and you can find them on the internet. There is a lovely company called um, Solutions. They have a nice pet wormer. There's also Earth Animal, which is a wonderful all natural company. They have a natural dewormer. There's some homeopathic dewormers. But yes, except for, in my opinion, you need the big guns when it comes to whipworms.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never been able to get rid of whipworms naturally. Not to mention they contaminate soil like crazy. So you really do have to use pharmaceuticals for that.
Okay. All right. Now, we've all heard chocolate and grapes, and obviously, we just talked about onions. All these are not good for dogs. What else should dogs avoid? What other foods that we may not even be aware of?
Um, well, chocolate and onions are the big guys. They're the big guns. Grapes, yes, there are some dogs that can eat them, but there's a lot of dogs that can't, and so I don't really take uh the chance on that one. And I think one of the biggest things is not necessarily a food, it's a substance that humans consume, and that's xylitol. It's deadly. And it goes by a lot of different names now. I don't have them all memorized. They just came out with one that they're calling it something else, not
It's
xylitol.
it's from
Birch
the birch.
extract.
Yeah, I was gonna say the birch tree, right?
Yeah. But xylitol is made in a lab. So xylitol is made in a lab. Um, it is not natural. You cannot find it in nature. So as an herbalist, it bothers me that they call it birch extract because a lot of birch tree medicine, birches especially, are very good for dogs and detoxifying for dogs. So people go, oh God, they can't. It's xylitol. No, xylitol is made in a lab, but it is deadly. And if your dog ever gets into it, make sure, I tell people, make sure you have a liquid milk thistle extract in your home, in your emergency kit. You want to give a large amount of the milk thistle until you can get to the vet. Every 5 minutes, just administer milk thistle, um, uh, because it can help save your dog's life. But xylitol is usually don't get the second chance, and it's in gum, it's in mints, it's in toothpaste. So you want to make sure that you keep that stuff out of, in drawers instead of just sitting out. Also, it's in peanut butter, and now it's working its way into other foods. So you just want to, read labels. It's just so important when you're an animal owner.
Yeah. Well, is peanut butter bad for dogs or is that okay? Just
So
plain.
peanut butter has a lot of controversy around it because of aflatoxins. And, you know, peanut butter in moderation, I think is fine. Peanut butter every day, absolutely not.
I don't even eat peanuts.
Yeah.
As humans, I stay away from it for the reasons you just mentioned.
Yes. So, as a treat every now and then is fine, but there's a lot better nut butters out there than peanut. Um, I would actually use organic almond butter. I would actually use butter, grass-fed butter, in lieu of a peanut butter. Not to mention, you can take grass-fed butter and just line a Kong with it, and just use a little bit of butter because it's going to stick, right? And dogs will be just as interested in that butter as peanut butter. Also, you can take like uh, non-processed cod liver oil and line a Kong with it, and dogs will go crazy. And these are things that aren't going to cause inflammation in dogs.
That's a great tip. What are your thoughts on olive oil for dogs?
I love olive oil as long as it's olive oil.
Okay.
You want to be really careful on your sourcing for olive oil. I definitely wouldn't use any American olive oil. I'm out on that. Um, but you want to make sure it's olive oil. It's going to have a bitter taste to it. Most good olive oils have a bitter taste to them. Olive oil, as long as it's pure, is fine for animals. Avocado. A lot of people say, "Oh, you can't eat avocado. Dogs can't eat avocado." They can. They can eat the green part of the avocado, not the skin, and not the seed. Okay, but
So the flesh then,
yeah, and
basically.
they can have that seed oil. It's not something that there would be any reason to give them avocado seed oil unless you're like maybe doing a small recipe or something. But that's the only seed oil that would be on my list to give dogs. I don't really recommend any other types of oils unless it's externally, like organic sunflower oil is good for making salves.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I was I got bashed one time in my Instagram stories because I was giving one of our dogs just a little tiny bit of avocado, like a chopped avocado, and they loved it. And then everyone came at me and they're like, "That's not good for your dog. How could you?" And I'm like, "Really?"
It is fine for dogs.
Okay.
There's a whole food brand. Now, this is not a food I would feed just because I don't feed kibble, but in the kibble market, there's a whole entire food brand based on avocado, and it's called Avoderm. Um, when I was in my 30s, it was a very popular food brand. It's still around. Dogs still eat it, and it uses avocado flesh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what's your take on those little teeth freshening chews that you see at the pet store? It's like, oh,
Not
those
a
little like
fan.
toothbrush things?
Yeah, not a fan. Uh, if you read the ingredients and look them up, you will be dissatisfied. They're highly processed, right? They're highly processed. I will give you a tip on teeth. So, a really great way to keep plaque off your dog's teeth is shiitake mushroom powder liquid. So you take a hot water extracted powder, like real mushrooms, or I don't, I'm not like, make sure that it's fruiting body, it's already hot water extracted and a powder. Um, or you could boil fresh shiitake mushrooms for about 2 hours on a low simmer and save that liquid. But that liquid's not going to last you long because it's not going to be, well, I guess it would last. I guess it would last a little less longer than the powder. But what you do is you just make a tea with that hot extract powder, put it in a jar, a spray bottle, and spray it in your dog's mouth twice a day, and it is phenomenal at keeping plaque off your dog's teeth. And there's also kelp. Um, my colleague Connor Brady, Dr. Brady, he has a whole line of oral products for dogs, and one is a kelp product. And kelp, it's not for every dog. It can make some dogs itch, but kelp in general is very good at supporting minerals in the body, supporting the thyroid. As long as your dog doesn't have hypothyroid, that's another conversation. But if your dog doesn't have hypothyroid, kelp can be very beneficial, and it keeps the teeth clean. And then, raw meaty bones are excellent. If you can't do raw meaty bones, that company Earth Animal has some products called No Hide, and they they're not made they're not rawhide. Rawhide is terrible for your dog and kills thousands of dogs every year. I would not use it. They're worried about avocados, but rawhides kill thousands and thousands of dogs a year with stomach infection. But they're called no hides, and that's a great chew. You also have like a Himalayan yak milk chew. It's like a hardened cheese that can be a good chew for a lot of dogs, especially little ones. And then if your dog like your Malinois, I wouldn't do this for your Yorkie, but for your Malinois, if they're young, you can do like uh, the inside of an antler that has the marrow in it.
I was
You
just
could,
about to tell you we give her deer antlers.
yeah. Sometimes
Is
they can
that
break
okay?
teeth. I like them when they're sliced in half so that they can chew the
Okay.
inside a little bit. And also, I mean, it is hardened, but it's softer than the outside. But even if you're not into to raw, you can get like beef bones that are in a package, and it usually has a dog's face on it. And what your dog will do is they'll eat the marrow out of it, but they'll still chew some of that bone. And we give those every week to our dogs.
Okay, those are really great tips. We also give both of our dogs dried chicken feet. What's your take on that?
Those are fine. Those are fine as long as they don't, if your dog's not itching because of them, they're fine, perfectly fine.
Okay. Now, a lot of dog toys are made of plastic. Do you have a concern about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one, just like people, you want to minimize anything that comes in contact with plastic and then your mouth. Um, it goes into your body. And for our dogs, they're chewing on plastic toys. I don't let them chew on plastic toys. Now, an alternative to that is wool toys. Wool toys are great. There are hemp toys that are ropes. I'm not a big fan of plastic toys. Is it a problem if it's every now and then they're like fetching a toy,
Like a
No.
ball or something?
Yeah, we're not going to go absolutely nutty, but having your dog chew on something made out of a synthetic fiber or uh, a plastic in general is a no-no. Drinking out of plastic is an absolute no-no. Eating out of plastic is an absolute no-no. And people like to substitute silicone for that, but silicone is still a plastic derivative. It's not as toxic as plastic, as a hardened plastic, but I still try to limit my silicone. I have one of those little silicone bowls for emergencies in my car. Sure, absolutely. But like on a daily basis, I don't use silicone. I don't use plastic. I use stainless steel or high quality glass.
Okay, great tips. Yeah, we have a good stainless steel for our Malinois too. But I have so many questions. Okay, there's controversy. How many times should we be feeding our dogs? 1 time, 2 times, 3 times?
Okay, so that depends. Little dogs tend to need more than once a day. Not every little dog, and then there's dogs with cancer. I wouldn't feed them more than once a day unless they are wasting. If they have muscle wasting, then that's a completely tailored protocol there. That they definitely may need more meals per day. Um, there are studies out there that dogs tend to live longer on 1 meal a day. We know that our wolf and coyote friends out there, um, sometimes they don't eat at all, so they do fasting. Some dogs will fast. Some dogs will, anything mixed with a poodle tends to be very self-regulating, which means they might eat on Monday, not on Tuesday. They'll eat on Wednesday and Thursday, maybe not on Friday. A lot of people freak out. There's something wrong with my dog. Just had a client yesterday. They thought there was something wrong with their dog. And I said, well, he's a poodle mix and nothing wrong with that. Just, as long as he's not losing weight, we're okay. So I recommend 1 time per day with possibly some goat milk or cow's milk, raw goat milk, raw cow's milk in the after or in the evening, or maybe just a very small amount if your dog needs that. Um, and of course, it takes time, but feeding your dog at different times during the day is important for gut health. Studies definitely have shown that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just how, like, literally what's so cool is the gut microbes can literally anticipate when that food is coming and release these types of chemicals. And a lot of times we want a variety of those chemicals, and your dog's body knows that. It's just weird. So when you feed your dog, like, they know what time they're going to be fed. They start getting crazy, like, hey, you're going to be, try to just vary up the times, even just by half hour, right? Yeah. And if you can, I mean, some people have to go to work, all bets are off and it's fine. Remember, it's fine. At the end of the day, all your dog really wants is for you to love them. I mean, just hands down, end of the day, that's what we want. But 1 day a week, or I'm sorry, 1 day, 1 time a day is good. Now, you may have a dog that needs more than that. You know, they may need 2 times a day. And again, we want to look at how they're holding their weight. We want to look at what their coat looks like. Um, we want to look, are their eyes bright? Uh, because the philosophy on 1 time a day, at 1 time a day, is that you're giving those organs time to rest and repair and process toxins and get rid of toxins and assimilate nutrients. The issue, if you're feeding your dog kibble, one of the biggest things is you want to add a digestive enzyme, always without fail. Okay. Because that kibble has no enzymes, it's completely dead, and it has no life in it. But that kibble also takes, most kibbles also take up to 14 hours to digest. And so if you're feeding twice a day, all those organs are doing is trying to process that kibble. So I think it leads on to early onset aging, along with all of the other love, care that we give our dogs. And it's really hard to get the liver working correctly when it's constantly processing food.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same as humans too. Like we need to have breaks in between meals. Snacking all day or eating, it's a lot on the body, and your digestive system is constantly working, and it's not repairing other things happening if you need repair, and we all need repair because we're loaded with toxins.
Yeah, and you also have the I believe it's the MMS system in the small intestine, which I think it's every 4 hours, sweeps the small intestine. This is humans of bacteria, right? And so when you are constantly eating, that system does not get to work because as soon as you eat, it stops, and that's a big issue with SIBO. And dogs can get SIBO as well. Um, if you're feeding your dog constantly all day long, that they have their own MMS system. I believe it's MMS, but they have their own MMS system um, that works on their small intestine. Now, their gastrointestinal tract is much shorter than ours. And that speaks volumes in the fact of kibble taking, I would say the average between 9 and 14 hours to digest, depending on the kibble. If it was a human, it would be an astronomical time for it to digest.
Okay. Now, how would you address someone? They come to you and they're like, my dog's actually really overweight. I know a lot of the, this type of dog is like escaping my mind, like the wiener dog. The dachshund.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know they have a lot of issues with obviously their back, but they tend to put on weight a lot. How would you address someone that is trying to get their dog to lose weight and their dog is just like eating everything?
So most Dachshunds that are overweight are eating a processed diet. So one, I would slowly get them off a processed diet, add digestive enzymes, look at nutrient assimilation. I would feed one time a day with a possible snack, depending on the dog. And that usually takes care of it. However, if the dog wasn't losing weight with that process, I would do a 5-panel thyroid and see if their thyroid was off. And if they're spayed and neutered, then you're going to have more of a proponency for obesity. I know that keeping my weight down is so much harder than before I had a hysterectomy. Like I have to do completely different. I have to do completely different things now than before I had that. And so, yeah, thyroid hormone and adrenal health are key into optimizing weight loss.
Okay, great tips. Okay. Now, what about landscape plants in our backyard? What plants should we take out or remove or avoid planting in the first place that are toxic to dogs?
So I'm not up on ornamental plants. So I like my whole yard is all native and herbal plants. But I can tell you that there are some plants that sneak. Like there's hemlock, not the tree, the plant. There's hemlock that can get into some gardens. There are some more toxic plants like foxglove that can get into some gardens naturally, but just by wind, right?
Are those the same as the foxtail?
No.
Okay.
No. Foxtails are from a type of grass.
Okay, because we had to remove some once we got our dogs because they were, I'm assuming they're not good because that's my husband was like, no, we don't need these.
Well, they can get into your dog's body and cause horrible problems. It's like a sliver. It's like a sliver. But yeah, I don't know much about ornamental gardening, so I can't really speak to that. What I can tell you is that Google is really a horrible place to find out what's toxic to dogs. Like, it says that, peppermint's toxic to dogs. No, it's not. Lavender's toxic to dogs. No, it's not. Lavender's toxic to cats. No, it's not. Lavender essential oil can be toxic. Essential oils are not plants. They are a part of a plant that's the strongest form of herbal medicine, and we talk and use them completely different than we would a normal plant. So I can't really speak to that. I mean, I could speak to, I love seeing dandelions in yards. I love chickweed. I love cleavers. Cleavers can get out of hand, so you want to have a special place for it and something for it to climb on. But we have a lot of invasives that are really good for dogs, like lemon balm and peppermint, milk thistle, and different docks. We can use. Um, so there are those types of things: skullcap, parsley, nettles, dried nettles, of course, not fresh. They'll sting you, and you'd never want to give fresh nettles to your dog ever. But dried nettles are perfect for dogs and people. So there's lots of things that are beneficial. Roses, rose hips, you can utilize it as long as you don't spray your roses. We have lots of native roses in my herb garden. It's right out there. But yeah, so I can't really answer the ornamental thing.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I did ask you at the beginning about an older dog and how they should be getting a different diet than a dog in their prime. Can you expand on that?
Well, one thing, puppies and old dogs tend to, like older dog, like puppies sometimes need a more nutritious diet, right? And sometimes, depending on the puppy and what you're feeding. And then with older dogs, we tend to want them to be more nutrient rich. Uh, and we are focusing on different things. Like, so diet to me is not only the food you're feeding, but the supplements and herbs that you're giving. And so we want those supplements and herbs to be gently cleansing, but also nourishing and supportive for cognitive health, for arthritis, movement, our gums and teeth, things like that. And so I tend to make sure a dog is assimilating nutrients correctly. And we're seeing that in the coat, we're seeing that in the gums and teeth, we're seeing it in the eyes, we're seeing it how a dog moves. And make sure they're getting enough anti-inflammatory ingredients and antioxidant ingredients to support a healthy kind of geriatric year. And for me, for extra large dogs, geriatric might start at 10, like a Newfie, right? If they're fed a fresh food diet. And if they're not, geriatric might start at 6, 7 for a Newfie or a Great Dane. And then for a medium dog, like a Malinois, geriatric tends to start for me at like 11 or 12. And, they live up to like 15. Where your little Yorkie, right now in the world, if they're minimally vaccinated, you're not giving, strong flea and tick meds because those have a really huge impact on liver and lymphatic health and nervous system health. And when the organs aren't functioning correctly, we get a deterioration of life. We get a shortened lifespan. And but a little Yorkie that's well cared for could live until they're 18, 20. So their geriatric years start at 13, 14.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
in the dogs that I experience, but it can also start a lot younger, depending.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, that's a really, really good point to bring up. Now you do consulting, right? You have clients and things like that. Where could people find you, reach you? Where are you on social media? Give us all the details.
Well, one of the biggest things that can help a lot of people, and again, I don't do any kibble shaming or anything like that. I try to work with people and improving the bowl. Like that's so important. My book came out last year. It's called The Herbal Dog. I deal with feeding. I deal with organ health. I deal with herbs. I deal with improving everything, how to use herbs. It's an introductory book. It's a bestseller. It's a really great book. It's called The Herbal Dog. And then, I have my own podcast called Dogs Are Individuals. That's kind of my free leg of things. I do that weekly. It's just me on the podcast, just talking about herbs and how to care for your dogs and different subjects. And then I'm at Instagram at Canine Herbalist, and that's a Canine, Canine Herbalist. And then on Facebook at Canine Herbalist, on TikTok at Canine Herbalist. I'm not that active on TikTok. Getting better, getting better. And my website for consultancy and my store is canineherbalist.com with a T. And then I also teach courses, like I have a flea course and an oral health course and a level 1 and level 2 herbal course and some other courses on there. And that is canineherbalism.com.
Okay, wonderful. Well, for those listening, I'll be sure to put those links in today's show notes. So you guys can just go to today's show notes and find Rita and all of her outlets and store and book and all that good stuff. Thank you so much, Rita, for coming on and sharing. We're going to have you back because I feel like we just touched on a few topics, and I know you have more to share.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Digest This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let us know. If you're ever wondering how you can support me and this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family is the best way. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson, and to check out more shows by my team, go to wellnessloud.com, and to email the show, message us at digestthispod@gmail.com. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or health team first.